You're tuned in to the Behind the Ears podcast with Uncle Danny and Mr. Chris, because everybody does Disney differently. The Behind the Ears podcast crew would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support. Expedition Roasters is the artisanal roaster of specialty Disney-inspired coffees. Why not brew some of the magic at your home? Some of our coffees include Skipper's Brew, Ghoulish Delight, Enchanted Tiki Coconut, Redhead Rum, and many other unique roasts. Our coffees are certified gluten and allergen-free and feature unique custom artwork by guest artists. Expedition Roasters offers an adventure in every bag. So start your adventure today by visiting us online at expeditionroasters.com. That's expeditionroasters.com. And Behind the Ears listeners, be sure to take advantage of this exclusive offer and save 20% on your first purchase with code EARS20. That's EARS20 at expeditionroasters.com. Brew your happy place. Do you have a little one and don't want to bring your stroller from home? Have you destroyed a stroller in the past from all the wear and tear from a Disney vacation? Well, Kingdom Strollers is a great place to rent a great quality stroller at a reasonable price. Kingdom Strollers is a Disney-featured stroller provider, which means they will deliver it right to your resort, even if you're not there. Same thing for picking it up at the end of your trip. So if you're in need of an affordable stroller rental during your next Orlando trip, consider renting from a Disney-trusted stroller company. Visit kingdomstrollers.com for more information.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears podcast. I am Uncle Danny, the man wearing the shirt that might be brighter than the sun. That is Mr. Chris. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Because guess what?
What?
Not only did I finalize one Disney trip for this year, I finalized 2 Disney trips for this year. Okay? 2 Disney trips for this year. And let me go ahead, I'm going to tell everybody right now, no, I will not be there during Princess Marathon weekend. I will not be there. People have been passing this rumor around that I kept on telling people that I was going to be there and this, that, and the other. No, because I booked another trip, a trip just with my wife, without the kids.
Ooh.
Just the 2 of us. And I got my flights. And it's amazing and how much different the price is in the flights between trip 1 and trip 2. It was amazingly different. But it's going to be great. And if someone's asked me, well, Mr. Chris, when are you going? We keep on hearing when Danny's going. What about you? I never tell. And you know that. So I will tell you this. It'll be sometime between tomorrow and Christmas. Okay, so sometime between tomorrow, because obviously it won't be today, and Christmas, I will be doing 2 trips. But there's always a rule that I have. If you find Mr. Chris and you get a selfie, you'll get some swag when I get home. It's as simple as that.
Oh, geez.
Oh, I love that. Danny, I think Jessica made a costume. You'll be a glass of cranberry juice. Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny.
That would be that'd be so hard to run in.
That actually would be.
That'd be ridiculous. Let's see. So on tonight's show, we're doing that fancy little thing where Uncle Danny mops the floor at Mr. Chris, but we keep him around for a little while to, we don't want to crush the souls. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But it's going to be another one of those fantastic SmackDowns where, listen, let's be real. I'm right. My opinions are right. I'm for the people.
Oh my
Vote
gosh.
for Uncle Danny. I'm for the people.
You know what? There's something that we didn't do last week, and we didn't actually do a post-show survey poll of saying who won. So we don't necessarily. I think last week had to be considered a draw.
Yeah, I will. Either by tonight I'll do it right after the show. I'll put a poll, 2 polls up, the one for
No,
the tonight and one
no,
for last week.
no. Last week is all far and gone. You can't do it that way. Sorry.
We need to figure out a winner.
It's simple. It was a draw. We don't have to.
We don't. There's no such thing as tying.
Oh my gosh! You can get tied in hockey. You can get tied in
No, you
this.
cannot. You cannot tie in hockey. It goes to a shootout. See, we changed the rules. I'm the commissioner. We make these rule changes. We make the rules on the fly. Let's be real.
Okay, so tonight's shootout is going to be moderate resorts. Moderate resorts. Which resort stands taller than the rest? Which one do we like the most? Which one do we want to defend? And the thing is about moderate resorts is that you ever notice that there's a lot of people, and not everybody, but there are quite a few people. They'll either stay at a value or they'll stay at a deluxe, but the moderates don't always get a lot of love. But I think in some cases you can really find great value in a moderate resort that makes you feel like you're at a deluxe.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents. And I think that gives a good start off. I know which one you're going to pick already. I mean, I know what your favorite is, and I chose this topic even though I know right off the bat what you're going to do. So why don't you go ahead, tell everybody what your favorite moderate resort is, and give your mini synopsis.
Well, let's start with those stately wide column mansions, over on the Magnolia Bend. You've got the alligator bayous everywhere. Definitely that backwoods cottage look. But it's still a prestigious area to set at. There's the romance aspect of it, but you still have that rural, Louisiana feel to it. You have the beautiful river right there. And I am talking about none other than Disney's Port Orleans Riverside Resort. Riverside, not French Quarter. French Quarter's nice, but Riverside. Let's start with, a lot of people don't realize this. It's got a fantastic pool. It's got a water slide in that pool. When you cross over the bridge, when you're heading over to the bayou section, there's a 3+ acre hideaway with an old-fashioned, get it for this, old-fashioned, I'm not at the camera, old-fashioned swimming hole. So they don't even call it a pool, the swimming hole. It's got the sawmill slide. It's basically all geared towards, I'm not sure if it's exactly like this, but this has always been the motif that I've caught from it, that Tom Sawyer type of feel to it. There's also, they've got catch and release fishing, which is super cool. One of the great sit-down places I like to really go to is over at the Boatwright's Dining Hall. Definitely a lot of Southern-inspired dinner flair. It is one of the resorts that is now dog-friendly, so that's good if you're into that. You can use the bus transportation and also boat transportation. It is actually pretty close to the Disney Springs area, downtown Disney. So if you're someone like me, that's super, it plays a big part into it. But I want to touch on, they have, your river view, your garden view, the king bed, the standard view, pool view, preferred, blah, blah, blah. They have all that.
Reading again, Danny?
What?
Reading again?
Am I reading? Oh, no, I was reading comments, sorry. And then I pulled up a picture because I was looking at it and I wanted to make sure that I got the picture right. They have what I think is hands down the most decorative room, which is the Royal Guest Room. It comes in an array of different, one bed, either one bed, 2 bed, and then basically how I listed it down, how they have the preferred room, the standard view, the pool, garden, all that. They have all those options, but you walk in and subtle details that people don't even catch on to. If anybody's ever stayed in it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, or you're planning on going in, when you walk in the door and you're walking towards the TV, there's going to be a nice, it's all still rug in there, unfortunately, I think they should move it to the hardwood floors, but that's neither here nor there. There's going to be a nice area rug on the floor right in front of the TV. Take a look at it because it's Aladdin's rug, which, come on, the details to it is absolutely phenomenal. I know they'll have a picture on the one wall, which is going to be Tiana. And then you're going to say, well, what makes this room so special? And it's going to be the headboard. It's this big mahogany headboard. And inside the headboard, it's got this almost, I'm not going to call it an enchanted forest look to it. And there's fireworks in it and everything. And at night, you can flick the fireworks on. And so you can make the room all dark. And there's the lighting of the fireworks on your headboard, which is top notch. Now, I'm going to pass it to Chris. I've got a lot more to say, but that was a very long intro to what I think is by far the best moderator.
Well, you and I do have very similar tastes in this category. But I think, now first off, I'm going to tell you something. You're right. Riverside is full of charm. In fact, it was the very first Disney resort I stayed at, and it is part of the reason I became, hooked on Disney, was because I fell in love with that plantation feel. However, I used to think that Riverside was my favorite moderate resort until I stayed at Port Orleans French Quarter. And I really super love French Quarter. First off, smallest of the resorts, period. And I think that's one thing to say. And you know how everybody wants to be near the action? Well, the nice part is that, being near the action is not a problem at French Quarter because you are near the action no matter what. It is less than a 2 or 3 minute walk from the center of the resort where the pool is and where the main building is to like the furthest room there can be. It's really a simple, easy walk. There's only one bus stop, and there is a very quaint food court that, quite honestly, I think has some of the coolest, inspired decoration of any food court around. I will say that I really honestly didn't think I was going to like this resort when I stayed there a couple years ago. And then we had an opportunity to finally stay there, and I fell in love with the place. It felt so charming. It was small. It was quaint. We always think about Disney and all these big, huge, outlandish resorts, and it's awesome. It's big. It's, you think of just big words and adjectives to describe these cool places. Quaint is not, you're not going to ever use quaint to talk about Animal Kingdom Lodge. You're not going to use the word quaint to talk about Wilderness Lodge. You're not going to talk about quaint even for Pop Century or any of the values for that matter. They're not
definitely
quaint.
Moderates, though. You bring up that's a very good point.
That's something you got to take a look at. Even then, can't say about all the moderates because you have Coronado Springs, which is spread out around a lagoon. Which is, by the way, I love Coronado Springs.
But it almost makes it quaint, though.
It kind of does because it's not. It doesn't feel like it's only like a 2 or 3 minute walk to get from point A to point B in most cases, but it is spread out. So if it depends on where you want to go, but if as long as you know where you're going, it's really cool. Caribbean Beach is spread out.
That is true.
Okay, and that's actually one of those resorts where when we stayed there, we actually drove from our location because we had our truck. We actually drove from our location over to the main building where it had the food court and everything else like that, just because it was a little bit of a hike. So it brings back Riverside is still a relatively big resort. I mean, it's got plenty of rooms. It's 2 sections, or it's a number of different sections. You got basically the plantation side and the Alligator Bayou side. But French Quarter, you feel like you could actually be, walking down the French Quarter old style. I walk down there and I think Tiana, I think Princess and the Frog, I think Gumbo, I think Jambalaya, I think beignets, and I had my first beignets there, and I was like, ugh, they were so good. I was a little disappointed with one thing though. I shouldn't say disappointed. Surprised is one thing. Not to go on a food tangent as we've been known to do. I didn't realize that if you do beignets right, they're kind of hollow in the center.
Yeah, they're more of that flaky.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And you just gotta load it up with that powdered sugar. Oh yeah. But
you know what I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, one last thing. The thing is that we had some of our best food court meals there. It was just really good. Good quality. The food court is not large, but neither is the resort. So it doesn't feel like you're trying to cram 15,000 people into a very small food court area. But yet we never had a problem with seating. There was outdoor seating as well. And if you play your cards right, they have a little lounge over there as well, very much like the lounge over at Riverside. And the guy was playing some live jazz at that time. It was really kind of nice. It added a very nice flavor to it. And just overall, extraordinarily friendly cast members and just a beautiful decorum. I felt so relaxed walking around in this open-air resort.
Yeah. I will say this. Riverside, if you're with a significant other, you can walk I always mess up the name of the river,
Sassagoula.
Sassagoula.
Sarsaparilla.
Very romantic. You could take the carriage ride over by the main lobby. But I will say this about French Quarter. There's another major aspect why I I like French Quarter also, but Chris hasn't mentioned it yet, so I don't want to step on his toes, and let him use that grand one later. But I like when you go on the Riverside. The problem is the walk to the hotel, the walk to your room is very quaint, very nice. But that's it. Then you get to the room, it's just a building surrounded by palm trees and, greenery.
I'll actually disagree with you on that. I think have you ever been to like the plantations of the South?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's where the buildings actually make me feel like the old school.
Oh no, they do. I was more going with how French Quarter, you can literally, if you had a chair, pull a chair out of your room, sit there, and you feel like you're in a neighborhood.
Okay.
Because you have when you're walking through Riverside, it's just pathways, and you'll go over a couple small bridges that have some water, and it's shrubbery, but the buildings seem to be tucked nicely in nice areas, but they're surrounded by, we'll call it woodland. Unlike French Quarter, where it's more open air and you have these large, like, grassy areas. Some have the fountains, some of them have benches and everything. That's where the quaintness of French Quarter, I think, beats out on Riverside. I just don't like French Quarter. I think they need a major overhaul in aspects of their rooms, because I just think that it's dated and it's very, very dark. It does not seem, I granted, I understand what they're going for in that aspect, but my personal taste, I like that airy feel when I'm on vacation.
I'll grant you that. And the thing is that sometimes the dark feeling, the dark decorum isn't a bad thing. I mean, actually, when they redid Animal Kingdom Lodge, I was actually a little disappointed, because one thing I liked about it was because it was kind of dark. It was kind of mellow and stuff. It made me feel relaxed at night because of the dark wood, the dark tones and stuff like that. I never thought I would really like it until I stayed there a couple times. Same thing goes with French Quarter. The decorum really fits the mood, kind of dark, relaxed, chill, that sort of thing. But then you go over to the pool area, and it is like, it's like a Mardi Gras party. Well, yes. not quite like a Mardi Gras party, but yes, it has that Mardi Gras feeling to it, and they always had something going around there. It was just a blast of fun. But one of the coolest part is that both French Quarter and Riverside get to share a boat to go to Disney Springs, which I think is an awesome way to get to Disney Springs, and there and back is by a boat. You get to see a lot of cool things. You get to see the tree houses. You get to see Saratoga. You get to really approach the springs in kind of a big, majestic grandeur, so to speak. You're filled with anticipation as you arrive there. But then on your way back, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm chill. I'm going back to French Quarter, and maybe the food court's still open, and get myself a big bowl of jambalaya and kind of sit back with a favorite beverage. Oh,
See,
yeah.
And this is where, I mean, they're basically sister hotels. So it's funny that me and Chris picked the two that are basically related and they're walking distance to each other. In one hand, I actually think that French Quarter has a much nicer lobby. I feel like it's it's themed better than Riverside is. I think Riverside's rooms are actually better. Now, I will say this. I like the boat pickup and drop off at French Quarter better than Riverside. Riverside is more convenient because it's literally right next to the food court and the hotel check-in, where French Quarter, it's a little bit off to the side, but I think it's a much nicer view because that's just a boat dock at French Quarter compared to Riverside, where, yes, once again, it is a boat dock, but it's kind of in the middle of everything. You've got, the rent bike section. You've got people launching their rental boats for the day, the fishing boats for the day, the horse-drawn carriage, people walking in with their luggage, and you got everybody walking out of the food court. Meanwhile, French Quarter is a little bit off to by itself. But with that being said, at night when you've been walking around and you've been stuck on this, let's say the boat take a while to get the boat back from where you're coming from. It is more convenient at Riverside than it is French, but French Quarter, I think, has a better ambiance when it comes to, with where the boat is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that.
You don't seem to like the lobby.
No, I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm thinking about it, and the lobby does have a real big, grander sense to it. I mean, it's very well decorated, and I'm really sorry, I cannot remember the guy's name that is like the greeter, and he is all dressed up in his Mardi Gras gig. Mm-hmm. I mean, one time I kind of took an incognito picture of him because I almost felt embarrassed because I didn't want to go up to him. Dude, can I get a selfie with you? Because you look awesome. I think next time I will, because it was just such a really cool outfit. It was so colorful. It was basically saying, welcome, you're here for a good time. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed my time there. And, I mentioned, as I mentioned, the food there is just really, really super good. And, at the same time, it wasn't a problem walking from my room to go get a soda refill or something like that, because it was, at that time, I think it was like a minute and a half of a walk. And I never had a problem parking anywhere near my room. That wasn't an issue. And I woke up, I was right on the river. So I open my door, I step outside, and I am staring at a beautiful river, and with the sun coming up, and you see joggers going down the path. You see the boats starting to make their way. And, I felt relaxed. And there's not many resorts that I could actually sit there and say, I could just stay at the resort and feel relaxed. In this case, I did, and I do. And I just really super enjoy it. I will also tell you this. The nice part is the transportation. One bus stop. I know it sounds kind of weird, but there's like, 5 bus stops at Riverside? You got the main, and then you got 4 others going around.
If you you are right. I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you are staying at Riverside, and I warned, I don't like to give out people's names, so I warned one of the people I booked a trip for, be very careful, because it took me 4 days to figure out which bus stop was mine. Because every morning we would go get coffee, me and Matt, and we would just catch the bus in the front. But then every night we were trying to figure out which bus stop was ours, because our room was centrally located. So you literally could have picked any of them, but we knew one of them had to be closer. We just couldn't figure out which one it was.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I could see where that would happen, and if you weren't paying attention when you got checked in, saying this is where your building is, and this is the closest bus stop, which is stop number 4, or stop number 3, or whatever, I could see where that would be a problem. because we were always stayed at Magnolia Bend or the first stop. I can't remember, or the first set of houses. Unfortunately, I'm at a little bit of a blank now, but yeah. And the thing of it is, the only bad part about having one stop, or good, depending on how you look at it, is that you are there, you're waiting, and sometimes it gets a little crowded because there is only one stop. But overall, I never found transportation to be an issue at French Quarter. But at the same time, I never found transportation to be too much of an issue at Riverside as well. So, I've stayed there. I stayed at French Quarter once. I stayed at Riverside twice, and I will say that I think the quiet pools also at Riverside are wonderful. Again, it's just nicely, gently themed. And what else can you say? I mean, these are places that, quite honestly, I think people need to give them a try. I think people, if they haven't stepped out of a value resort yet, they need to give a moderate a try. These are two places that I think that you can really easily try these and almost get addicted to them. Now, between Caribbean Beach and between Coronado Springs, I mean, to me, Coronado Springs, you know why I liked it at first? Because it was the first moderate hotel that had queen-size beds. Before anybody else had them, they had queen-size beds. And that was also one of the reasons why I stayed away from moderate resorts for a while, because they only had the full-size beds, just like they have at the values. Now, I'm a big guy. Put me and my wife in a full-size bed, we're going to be knocking each other off the bed. And that's why Coronado was great. Queen-size beds. It was wonderful. And when they finally did queen-size beds across the board, I think it made it even better. And so, kind of even the score. But, what can I tell you? I think this is, if nothing else, kind of a lesson in, if you're a value type of person, you might want to try a moderate. And if you're a deluxe person and maybe you want to stay an extra day or two, you might want to consider a moderate.
So I want to touch on food, because what is a show with us without food?
Sure.
I think we both can agree within being very different, because I ranted and raved about the green fried tomato burger over at Riverside. We've talked about how good the jambalaya has been over in French Quarter. So this statement is not based on food. The food there is absolutely fantastic on both. Drink selections is great. Price point is what it is. It's Disney.
It's a good price point.
Yeah. I think the theming in both the restaurants is absolutely horrendous.
When you say both restaurants, do you mean between Boatwright's and the Sassagoula Grill and Grill Works?
Yeah, the Food Works and Food Factory, whatever. I think that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. They're both terribly, just horrific. They're a train wreck inside. I mean, if you go over to Riverside, which is Boatwright's, they have like this, just the wooden tables and like these old school wooden chairs that just don't fit right. And then they have that giant fireplace that just seems so out of place. I never understood why that fireplace was there.
You don't get the theming to it, do you?
It just doesn't. It doesn't. I don't feel it.
Do you know what a Boatwright is?
No.
It's a boat maker. Okay. And so what you see above you is a skeleton, the underskeleton of a boat. And the theming inside is everything is quote unquote, everything is handmade. Okay. It's all wood because the guy's a woodworker, and you'll see like tools and other things and other items all around there that it kind of goes along the theme with a boatwright who is building his boats, working with wood. They got the fireplace, kind of, you're almost like, either in his shop or at his home.
Back time.
Exactly. So you have to understand the theming a little bit. And I can understand if you didn't understand what a boatwright was.
Okay, well now I feel a little stupid on that.
No, don't feel stupid. I mean, it's one of those things you didn't know. You didn't know, but does boatwrights make more sense now?
It does. I still don't.
That's fine.
I respect it, and it makes way more sense now. Still don't think how it fits at Riverside. I get it. People are gonna be like, "But Daddy, there's water. It's Riverside. There's a boat." I get the small concept of it. I think they could have knocked something out of the park differently there. But okay, so even let's take Riverside out. Danny, you're a dumb. Can't believe you messed that up.
I didn't say it.
With those ginormous like Mardi Gras like ice cream cones and the masks and the jokers, and it looks so cheesy. Not when you're paying $250 a night for that. Like that to me looks good in like Pop Century. I respect that. I would understand it in a value. To me, it's got like a cheap motel feel to it, and I hate that.
Okay.
There's such good food.
Okay, now you're talking about over at French Quarter now.
Yeah, over at the Floatworks or whatever.
Yeah, and you know what? I can understand a little bit about what you're talking about. Again, the interesting part to it is that I thought it was really it was kind of like a really big statement in how it was, picked for, the designs were picked and stuff like that. It was very much party, Mardi Gras atmosphere type of thing, where everything is just bigger, better, badder type of thing. It's an interesting design if you understand what the decorum is supposed to represent. Are there? You see, here's the thing. You look at Coronado. You look at Caribbean Beach, and you look at their food courts. Well, and it's actually really difficult because it's like you go ahead and you call, the restaurant at Coronado, it's more of an open air restaurant than anything else. That's a big claim to fame. I haven't been to Caribbean Beach's one in a while. I haven't been there since they've actually refurbed it, so I really can't speak directly for it. But it's almost like a regular food court.
The salt and pepper one.
Salt and pepper one.
Wasn't that the name of it? Or someone's got like a Maya Grill.
Maya Grill is the one that's over at Coronado Springs.
Okay, I always get the Coronado and Caribbean one mixed up.
And it's one of those things where it's like I really I enjoy Maya Grill after they changed it. A couple trips ago we went there. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it was done a whole lot better. The way that you paid for things was a whole lot better. Just really honestly thought it was much better done. You know what I mean. But the thing is that I guess in some ways I'm glad that the theming is inconsistent because I wouldn't want to have the same type of food court feel. Just with different colors and different decorations. They're all a little bit different, and that's okay. So I'm good with that. But you're right. We can't have a talk without food.
No, but let's touch on Coronado because it's funny you bring that up because the Maya and the other one is it's like Lost something.
Oh, I know where you're talking. I've never been there.
Ventas. It's something. I'm sorry if anybody's a big fan. I'm butchering. I know it's something with a V, but both of them, the Lost one and the Maya Grill, have beautiful theming. The Maya's got like those big ceilings, and it's got like the pillars, and it's all orange and red and white. And the other one is a much darker theme.
But it's also
like reds and blacks.
But there's also the restaurant.
Yes, that's what at the end of the day, I mean, I know that's their casual dining spot and all that, but I was just, I feel like they did a very good job of the theming. Not necessarily the Las Ventas. I'm pretty sure I'm waiting for someone to put it up there. I know that one's a little bit out there because it's much darker and they have like, I don't know if have you been there in a while?
I've only been to Coronado and been to the Maya Grill. I haven't been anywhere else.
Okay.
There.
They have these they're like skinny back chairs, but they're like a wicker almost, but a finely like taunt wicker, but it's all black. I mean, it's very elegant for quote unquote, inside a moderate, let's be honest. And I was just I walked in, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Then I sat down, and I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't make sense though. Like when you get the menu, it's like that was not what I thought it was going to be. But I just thought they did a better job. Now I'm going to give you one last chance to talk about the major thing here at French Quarter that you have not brought up.
Okay, I obviously it's a detail that you've caught on that I have left out, so I am going to go ahead and let you tell me what you think I'm missing.
Yeehaw Bob! You didn't bring up Yeehaw Bob. Are you kidding me? That was a slam dunk.
Actually,
You started with that.
actually, you should have brought up Yeehaw Bob because he's over at Riverside, not at French Quarter.
But he does stuff over at French Quarter too. No, because I saw a picture of him, and he was in front of. I don't know if he does a show, not a show. Did they have like a moving piano there? Because I literally watched a video of him going down the river on this moving piano, going from Riverside to French Quarter, and it was during the Mardi Gras parade, so maybe it was something special for that.
I've never seen anything like that before. Only time I've ever seen Yeehaw Bob perform is over at Riverside. The only thing I can
that bar?
The River Roost, I think.
Is that what it is?
I think I haven't been there in so long. But here's the thing. The only reason why I can think that Yeehaw Bob being over at French Quarter is if the lounge over at Riverside was actually under construction or under refurb, I should say. So that's the only thing I can think of. I've only known him to play there. Your mileage may vary. Taxes not included.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I can think of. So.
And like I said, I know his main place. What does he do? 3 times a week now? I think he's down to. Yeah. I know he does. His main spots at Riverside.
Right.
But the reason I wanted you to bring it up is because I thought that it was an all the time thing. Maybe it just happened to be a video I came across that was an oddity. But I know when they do their Mardi Gras parade, one of the floats was him playing the piano in front of French Quarter, and I was
wow.
It blew my mind.
That's cool.
The coolest thing ever.
I do know that they do.
He's a really nice guy.
Oh, he is
really nice guy. If you get to meet him,
and I'll just go ahead and we'll use this opportunity to plug. August 25th, Saturday, August 25th. I'm hoping that the Indie Disney Meet is able to have him again. I haven't talked to Aaron on whether or not he's going to be able to come back, but I hope he is. He was there last year, and it was an absolute blast. And so. That's just one of those things where if you can make it down to the Indie Disney Meet, you never know who you're going to meet, except you know that you're going to meet Uncle Danny and Mr. Chris. So there you go.
If you ever want to see me and Mr. Chris, it was the first time I had ever oh my God, there's a celebrity sitting next to me like that. Like the Southern slur came out. I was like, oh my. When we walked in and literally, Yeehaw Bob, we walks in, we shake his hand, we're talking to him. We go to sit down for our meal, and I'm thinking, okay, cool. That's the end of it. He was 2 people away from me. There was me, 2 other gentlemen, and Yeehaw Bob. I literally got handed a basket of bread from Yeehaw Bob. Okay, people, we've made it. We're here. It's over. Oh man!
Wow.
That was a good time. I don't know. I'm a big Yeehaw Bob fan, man. He kills it.
Yeah, I mean, but they do have live music there. Again, the guy I heard was playing some nice, good old fashioned, old time jazz, a little bit of big bandish type of stuff. I mean, it was really really cool. I sat there and I listened to him for a little while. I really enjoyed it, and the thing is that. My first experience at Disney was at a moderate resort. And I'm glad it was because, I knew that I can go up or down in the sense of deluxe or value and try different things. I know there are some people that say, I've always stayed at Pop Century. Pop Century is my absolute favorite. I've only stayed there. How do you know it's your absolute favorite if you've never tried anywhere else? And then they say something like, well, I've never been able to afford anything else. Well, okay, I get it. But, sometimes you just have to stop and say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time to try something a little different. And I think the moderates, regardless of the moderates that you go to, are very well worth the Very well worth the expense. But here's also something else. One thing before you go. I always thought for around the same price, maybe a few bucks more, if you have a larger family, and you would have to get two rooms at two rooms at a value is one of those things you'd have to get, or one room at a moderate is not enough. The cabins at Fort Wilderness are about, I won't say about the same price. They're a little bit more incrementally, but you've got a lot more room. It's almost like you're going to be a cabin at the campground for just a shade bit more than moderate price. That's something to take into consideration for those of you that also have larger families. And you get a full kitchen. It's awesome.
I've never been inside one. I'd love to be able to. If anybody knows how to get inside one, let me know.
I haven't been inside one. I've seen the pictures of both the old version as well as the new versions that they have. There's a lot of people that absolutely love them, and it's really. I mean, you get a full kitchen. I think you get laundry facilities. I mean, it's really nice, and you pull your car right up to it, type of thing. Again, for larger families, it can be a really roomy, offering that's not gonna break the bank.
The whole notion of, well, I can only afford to stay here, and I understand that everybody's price point is completely different. But here's the thing: no one's stopping you from going to look at these resorts. Yes, you can't really get into rooms. You won't experience the life of, okay, if my room's back here, how long of a walk is going to be? How are the beds? Are they comfortable? The bathrooms have, a partition, or is there a wall or a door? But at the end of the day, go walk these resorts. Get a feel for it. Because, listen, at the end of the day, a bed's a bed, a room's a room. But if you automatically walk into something and already don't like the decor or like the way it's spread out, it doesn't matter if the room's made of gold. You're not going to like it. So just go give them a shot. Listen, we've always told people all the time, how we like to do it is, I don't want to be in the park every day. I like to leave a day for the pool, or whether it's golf, go get a massage. My big thing now is making sure I have a full day for the springs, because it's just so immersive. I also always like to keep at least a half a day, possibly a full day, depending on the length of my trip, to go resort hop, And then, you have trips like I'm coming up now where I've done all the values. I mean, I don't really see, no pun intended, the value of going to visit, music or sports or anything like that. But, we've been doing the deluxes so much, riding on the monorail. I've neglected the moderates. Just due to I haven't been able to stay at them because they've been selling out quickly, or the price point's been way too high. This next trip, I want to go hit every moderate and walk around and really, take it in, because listen, who's getting the 15-story tower? I never remember if it's Caribbean or Coronado.
It's gonna be Coronado.
Coronado. Go visit Coronado now. I understand it's under construction. It's not going to be the same. But I would really go take a look at that before they put up a 15-story hotel. That's all I'm going to say. That layout of that resort is going to change completely.
Yeah, and I will also say that I think the pool area. Okay, the pool area at Riverside, I love it. I think it's really, really cool. Pool area at French Quarter, not quite as cool, but cool. The pool area at Coronado is big. It's got a water slide. I think it's a very nice, desirable pool area. But I think the winner of pool areas for moderate resorts goes over to Caribbean Beach, because I think it has a little bit of everything for little itty bitty kids to adults, and it's a big, big pool area. Very, very desirable for families, especially for families that have kids who span ages. I will say that. I think that's really cool. Oh, and by the way, if I am not mistaken, I'm actually going to be staying at French Quarter sometime between now and Christmas.
Who's got the Mayan temple?
That's over at Coronado.
That's a cool pool. That is a cool pool.
But
and they put like the tree branch there so no one can climb it.
That's true. But I'll tell you this also something else. at French Quarter, which I'm staying at sometime between now and Christmas, we got a room with a king-size bed in it.
Really? Fancy pants.
Yeah.
Fancy
Again, that's for the adults only trip. So
okay.
for the big family trip, we're actually staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Animal Kingdom Lodge again.
And
Animal
Kingdom Lodge the whole trip?
No,
you're not
actually
doing like the 7 resorts again.
No, but we are doing a split. The last few days, we are actually going to stay in one of the car suites over at Art of Animation.
Okay.
In fact, we just booked that right before we came on the air. That was the reason why we're actually a minute or two late, because credit cards were being set on fire. Between
you get a room.
Yeah, between my wife is downstairs with her credit card, burning a hole in it for that particular thing, and I'm up here, causing my credit card to go as I press the button on, a huge thing over at
So you're done with points then. You were able to get most of that with all your points?
We were able to use all of our points for literally every last point we had for a 1-bedroom villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge, which does sleep 5, which is what we needed.
Okay.
And we are paying cash for
it's 5 this time.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, I forgot. I was like, why does he need 5?
The son-in-law candidate is going to be with us. And so, yeah, and then that's why we also have a suite over at Art of Animation, because we need that extra room. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I think we're going to have to do a show in the future about how to deal with bringing extended family members on trips. I have stories about my mom and mother-in-law, but then also I know I'm going to have stories with my, future son-in-law joining us. Different things. It was a real challenge actually to make sure we got everything accommodated. And then, like example, it was a challenge to find tickets for 5 of us that I could afford, plane tickets. I will tell you this: I was really scared because 2 weeks ago, the flights were approximately $450 a piece. It was driving me nuts. I picked them up for
That's like 4 trips for me.
I know. I picked up my flights for my main trip for about $235 a piece.
That's a good deal.
And
that's not bad.
No, it's not. No, wait. I'm sorry. It was just a shade over $250 a piece with all the taxes. It was about $211 a piece for my wife and I during our adults trip, but I'm not flying out of Chicago. I'm flying out of Indianapolis.
So you got that drive ahead of you then.
Well, the thing is, it takes me an hour and a half. It takes me an hour and a half to get from here to O'Hare. It takes me 2 hours and 20 minutes to get from here to the Indianapolis airport. We're actually going to stay near the Indy airport at a Hilton branded hotel for free. Thank you, points. And actually, because my son is actually going to be down further south of Indy when we come back, we're actually going to spend another day at Indy, go see him at camp, and then take a drive home. There's just a lot of different things. We're doing a lot of traveling this summer, which is really pretty cool. It's going to be nice. I mean, because I've crossed so many years with my company, I get a few extra days this year. And I want to mention, Robbie, DVC does not have moderate resorts. All the DVC resorts are basically deluxe resorts, and that is how they have them set up. Some are
not for long.
See, they're not going to consider the one at Coronado to be a moderate. They're going to consider it a deluxe DVC resort, and it's going to be set up that way.
So it's going to be a deluxe DVC resort located on a moderate resort grounds.
Something to that extent.
Interesting.
I doubt that. Let's put it this way: I doubt. I have a feeling it's going to have more amenities than, let's say, Saratoga. And I have a feeling the price, point is how I always try to call it. The number of points needed for a room, I think, is going to be somewhere in the middle. In the sense of the range of points needed for a room at a certain time for a certain category. That's my guess. That's a Mr. Chris guess right there. We'll have to see in a few years when it comes out.
Interesting. That's something to keep an eye on, because now, are you going to be able to buy a deed on that?
Oh yeah, I mean DVC.
You can make that your home base.
If I wanted to, I could make it my home resort. If I wanted to buy.
Yeah, I'm saying from the average, if we wanted someone to go out and buy. Well,
I mean, it's a DVC resort. I mean, all DVC members actually have deeded property.
So what you're saying is maybe Uncle Danny might buy in.
And you know what? We talked a little bit about that while you were on vacation in December. Brandon and I actually had a really good set of shows in regards to DVC. But you know, I know something. We may have a spring DVC refresher, because I think there are some good things going on with DVC, and there are some good pros and cons to it, and there's also some pros and cons as to how, when, where, why, and how.
I should have bought in years ago.
Oh, dude, I'll be honest with you. Okay, one of the first times I stayed at Riverside, they had on the TV, talking about, DVC membership and what it was. And I finally, late one night I was awake and I finally paid attention to the whole program. And they said, basically, memberships start at, $12,000. And I was like, $12,000? Are you kidding me? But so it wasn't until seriously 5 years later I bought in, and it cost me shade over 16 to start off with. So I wish I could have saved myself, $4,000 right there if I would have bought in when, bought in whenever I would have bought in. So you see, now the cool part is that they're raising the prices on DVCs, but that also makes the resale value of my resort more desirable. And if I keep going at this point, the fact is that I can almost sell my DVC almost for what I paid for it. And if you think about it, if I sell my membership, for even a 10% loss, or maybe even a 20% loss versus what I paid out for it, that means I've had over 10 years, almost 11 years worth of vacations for less than
$1,600
for say $3,000, even if it's a 20% loss. Think about that for a minute. 10 years of vacations for $3,000. You know what? Call it plus my fee, the fees I have to pay every year and stuff like that. Think about it. I mean, no, you're not supposed to buy in a DVC as any kind of an investment other than an investment in future vacations, but the new DVC resorts are becoming so desirable. The prices go up because there is a supply and demand issue. And it just makes the resale value look so much better, especially for those who are buying in for the first time. But it also makes us who are owners happy that if I ever had to bail, and I pray to God above I don't ever have to do something like that, it's going to be worth something. At least it's going to be not. I'm not going to. It's not like buying a 95 or an 85 Yugo, where you have to pay someone to take it away. That's going to be one of those things.
Well, it was just like, I remember when I almost bought in, they still send me the movies. This is going back 2000, maybe 12. Mm-hmm. And I wanted Polly, and for 150 points, it was like 33,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at 22 years old, I was like, oh my God, that's a small car. Like, that's literally a family-sized sedan. Mm-hmm. I can't afford it. I can't justify this. Like, I could have afforded it. I just couldn't have justified it. And now, 6 years later, whatever it is, I'm like, oh, I could have been a Polly this entire time.
Here's the thing with almost anything Disney. Is like, if you really want something, anything Disney, you have to budget for it. And like anything else, you have to figure out some kind of a cost effectiveness to it. For us, it became worth it. Would I do it again now directly from DVC? I don't know. Kind of depends. But
Yeah.
the thing
I've been
is,
looking heavily in the resale.
yeah, and the thing is like I'll tell you right now, I've been able to get rooms the next day. I have been on Disney property, going from a resort to a park with my phone and booking a room for an extra day and not having a problem with it. Now, you have to be flexible. You have to have an understanding of what you're buying in. You have to understand that you are, you're not going to just be able to get everything and anything. But these are going to be great conversations for a follow-up conversation about DVC in a near future episode. And it's going to be great.
So before we head out, I want to touch on some. To be very quick. Listen, people. Disney has not announced that they're changing the name from Hollywood Studios. I know there's a lot of these, polite way of saying, a lot of these offsites, websites that have been reporting that Disney has fully announced and settled on a name. Until Disney comes out and says it, nothing's real. The name that they're talking about is Disney
Cinemagic?
Cinemagine.
Cinemagine.
Cinemagine? I was looking at that. It just didn't sound right in my head. Let's all just wear our pajamas inside out, pray to whoever you pray. They did not just change this name to that.
Well, the interesting thing is that it came from someone supposedly... Oh, let me rephrase how I said it, because I have a deep respect for the gentleman that said this. Supposedly it came from someone who is very well known and very well respected within the Disney community. And quite honestly, some of his guesses are better than some people's facts. As I said, I have a very high regard for this particular gentleman. I think he's a wonderful person. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what goes on. I agree with you, though, Danny. The fact of the matter is that nothing at Disney is official until they say it is. And then again, it's always subject to change until the first guest experience it. And then even then it could change. So that's just the way I see it,
All right. Anything else you'd like to say?
You know what? I've enjoyed these little throwdown conversations. I think it's great for us to talk about different resorts, different things. And granted, we only wanted to do a little test here in January. I bet you any money that this will be a recurring feature within our show over the next few months. Maybe not necessarily a month in a row like we have, but I expect that it'll be back in the near future.
With that being said, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. Facebook is Behind the Ears Podcast, Instagram Behind the Ears Podcast, and Twitter Behind the Ears PC. Any listener questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Behind the Ears Podcast. Don't forget, like Trisha says up on the screen here, please join the WDW community over on Facebook. And lastly, if you could do us a favor, go on iTunes, rate and review the show. With that being said, everybody, thank you all for joining us here on Behind the Ears Podcast. I am Uncle Danny. Don't forget to tuck those kids in tight and drink that cranberry juice. Have a wonderful evening.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. iTunes, Apple Podcasts. You can ask Alexa to play us. You can ask Google Home to play us. Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, which is one of my favorites, I might add. Ask them to play it. They'll go ahead and play it as well. You can get our show anywhere, anytime, from practically any place. But until we meet again, we hope that you have a wonderful day, and we can't wait to talk to you again. Take care.